This story was submitted by Jess L. The link to her channel will be in the description below. Thank you so much for sending in your story. I recently went on a trip to visit my friend Allison. I went with my roommate Mark, who I suspect has a thing for me, though we've never hooked up. We've gotten close, but neither of us has ever pulled the trigger. We're both seniors in college, and Allison is 1 year older. Our train ride was early in the morning, and I had to set multiple alarms to get up on time. Mark is a morning person, and was up and fully packed by the time I got up. I, on the other hand, had to hurry to get dressed, brush my teeth, and get packed. I put on a tank top, a pair of tight low-rise jeans, and a cute white thong with a thick waistband. I like to wear these pants around Mark, as he always seems to like when my butt crack and thong slip. He's never commented on it, but I've seen him stealing glances, and I think I've even seen him sneak photos before. He's not very subtle, but I pretend not to notice when he does it. I think it's cute, and it even turns me on a little bit to know I'm turning him on. I don't know what he does with the pictures after the fact, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a don't ask, don't tell situation. When I came out of my room with my backpack and roller bag, he seemed a little irritated that we were running late, but his mood changed when he noticed what I was wearing. "Ready to go?" he asked as he tried not to stare at my low-riding pants. "Yep, just have to put my shoes on," I replied as I took off my backpack and hurried over to the shoe rack. I decided to grab my tall leather boots, which look amazing with this outfit. They're not the best for traveling, but I wanted to bring them and they wouldn't fit in either of my bags. We don't have anywhere to sit near the door, so I sat on the ground, causing my pants to slip in the back and the top of my butt crack and thong to come out an inch or so. I pulled my socks over the bottom of my jeans and slipped the boots on. This prevents the bottom of my pants from riding up throughout the day, but also makes my pants harder to pull up. "If we hurry, we can catch the 7:07 bus and avoid some of the rush hour traffic," Mark commented as he stood conveniently behind me. He held his phone in his hand, and I was unsure if he was checking the schedule or trying to snap a quick pic. I told him I was ready to go and put on my jacket before grabbing my bags and heading out the door. At this point, a little bit of my crack was showing, but it was covered by my jacket, so I didn't worry about it too much. Mark walked behind me and urged me to walk quickly as the next bus wouldn't come until 7:47. I rushed down the stairs of the apartment and power walked to the bus stop as I could see it coming in the distance. I could feel my pants slipping but could barely pull them up with my jacket and backpack in the way and only one free hand. We managed to catch the bus but found it was a bit more crowded than expected. Luckily, we were able to find a couple of seats open towards the back. I hurried down the aisle and felt a bit guilty bumping into people with my bags. I received a couple of dirty looks from people assuming I was a tourist. I put my roller bag up on the top rack, half-heartedly attempted to pull my pants up and sat down before the bus started moving. When I sat down, I immediately felt my pants come down a couple inches in the back. I'm not sure how much was showing, but I could feel my butt touching the cold metal seat. The seats on the bus have an open back towards the bottom, and I'm sure the guys sitting behind me were able to get a good view of my ass and thong. This made me a bit uncomfortable as they seemed to be frat bros, and I wasn't sure how they would react. I tried to pull my pants up and pull my shirt down, but it didn't help much, and I could hear them giggling a bit as I pathetically tried to cover up. I realized it was a lost cause and just accepted that I'd be flashing them for the duration of the bus ride. Mark turned to me and mentioned that we should be good catching our train so long as there wasn't too much traffic. His eyes kept darting towards my waistband, which was the only thing visible from his viewing angle. I mumbled some sort of affirmation to him and bent over to reach into my bag. I wanted to grab my headphones and block out the annoying chatter of the frat bros behind me. Unfortunately, I packed them towards the bottom of my bag, and it took quite a while for me to locate them. Though it was only 10 seconds or so, I felt like I was searching for an eternity. I noticed a flash and a loud shutter sound go off behind me. I turned around to see one of the frat bros pretending to take a selfie. "What?" he said through the smuggest grin I've ever seen. I rolled my eyes and glanced at Mark, who pretended not to notice what was going on, before pulling my tank down and putting my headphones on. I heard the frat bros laugh out loud as my whale tail remained completely visible, though the hole in the seat back despite my second attempt to cover it. I put on a podcast and closed my eyes, trying to relax as the bus ride went on. I laid my head against Mark's shoulder and tried to drift off to sleep. I was confident that he would wake me up when we made it to our stop. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to fall asleep as I was preoccupied thinking about the boys sitting behind me and the show I was giving them. They were probably taking tons of pictures and videos and sending them to all their friends, maybe even posting them online. Oh well, there wasn't much I could do about it now, and to be honest, it did turn me on a little. After a few minutes resting on Mark's shoulder, I noticed a strange sensation. One of the frat boys seemed to have given my thong a little tug. Nothing huge, just a gentle pull. This made me a little uncomfortable, though it did turn me on more than I'd care to admit. I continued to lay on Mark's shoulder and pretended to stay asleep. I couldn't hear what the bros were saying over my podcast, but I imagined they were giggling and filming. After a short reprieve, I felt another tug, this one a little bigger, accompanied by a snap of my waistband. I felt Mark stir a bit, but he didn't turn around or say anything as far as I could tell. If he knew what was going on, it didn't seem to bother him very much. This time I could hear the frat boys laughing over my headphones, but I continued to lay on Mark's shoulder, pretending to sleep. I hoped they would get bored at some point and leave me alone, though to be honest, I was quite enjoying the attention. Eventually, the frat bros did get bored, and I managed to fall asleep. The sound of the podcast was quite soothing, and the subject matter, exotic animals, was just boring enough that I could turn off my brain and doze off. Mark's shoulder was quite comfortable, and I'm sure he enjoyed having me rest against him. I was quite enjoying my nap and catching up on all the sleep I missed from having to wake up so early. That is, until I was rested awake by the feeling of a huge wedgie. It seemed the frat boys wanted to pull one last prank before getting off the bus. One of them had grabbed my thong and pulled it way up through the seat back and let it snap back as they stood up to leave. They hurried down the aisle, laughing their asses off as I stayed in my seat and tried to push my thong back into my pants. I cursed them out a couple of times but couldn't chase after them as we were still a couple stops away from the train station. Mark looked shocked but also tried to hold back a grin as he asked me if I was okay. I had never been humiliated like that in public and was trying to mask how aroused I was, even though I was quite angry. As I bent over to put my headphones away, I accidentally dropped my phone on the floor and it slid forward under the seat in front of me. Again, I had to lean forward and blindly grab for it before it slid further down the bus. After a couple seconds of grabbing, I had to get out of my seat and crouch down to get it. Though I had shoved my thong into my pants, I still had a few inches of butt crack showing and accidentally brushed it into Mark a couple of times while I was searching. We both pretended not to notice, and eventually I successfully recovered my phone. Mark had his phone in hand while I was searching and quickly put it away as I sat down. By this point, my pants were quite low and I could feel half of my butt touching the seat. I attempted to pull my pants up, though it didn't accomplish very much. After a couple of minutes, we arrived at our stop and both stood up to grab our things and get moving. I made a Herculean effort to pull my jeans up and managed to just cover my butt crack while standing. My thong was pushed down quite far in the back, but was still showing a bit in the front. I reached up to grab my roller bag and received many bemused looks from the other bus riders as I walked past them. I doubt any of them had ever seen a grown woman receive a wedgie in a public space before. I couldn't get off the bus fast enough to get away from these people who had witnessed my public humiliation. It wasn't even 9 a.m., and this was already the most embarrassing day of my life. As I walked through the train station, I hoped that the rest of the day would be less eventful.